What up, y'all? DCFAYGOGUY. Welcome back to What's Happening Now. The news just doesn't stop coming. I felt like maybe I was going to have to shoot this a little bit earlier. I am shooting this Friday night. It's September 15th. And I just realized right before filming that I'm actually wearing the exact same shirt that I was wearing last week. I promise you this is not the same crusty shirt. It is the same shirt, but it's been washed, it's been dried, and I just happened to grab it out, put it on with the same matching red shorts because it was a really cool outfit. So if you're watching this episode and maybe you just finished watching the last episode, I promise it's clean. I am scrubby, but I'm not that scrubby. My shit's been washed. So let's jump right into it. There is a lot to kind of talk about. So let's do what we gotta do. Flip it over. First thing I'm going to do right out the gate, I'll make sure it was the first thing pulled up on like the itinerary, if you will, which is just a bunch of opened up windows. Shout out to the members. There they are. Razael, Pisco Low, Lorgasm, Massacre Media, Subnoise Soldier, KJ Riddle, Ivy Killa, Maskey, Juggalotus BD John, and Coma Black. They are members. They're supporting the channel. I am super thankful for them and doing that. And if you would like to become part of that, you can hit the join button, or there's a link in the description as well if you would like to become a member to help support the channel. So on to the news. There's a lot, like I said, and I'm pretty sure if we scroll all the way down here to the bottom like this, I'm pretty sure there is more news. I don't want to make this a super long episode like the last episode, so I am going to focus on what is on the front page here. Again, I went through the week adding little notes on my phone of like what I wanted to talk about, and everything I have on my notepad is actually right on this page, so that is perfect. So I guess we will start it off from the bottom and go up, which is Keegan the Creep has a brand new album called What I Call Datterall Volume 1. Now, when they first announced this, I was actually kind of excited because I actually do enjoy Keegan as a comedian. I think he's hilarious. But the more that I looked into what this album actually is, it's actually like a collection of prank calls he's done. And while I'm sure they're hilarious, I've seen some of his clips on Instagram, and it's not really something I have interest in. Like, don't get me wrong, like I think this is something that somebody out there would enjoy. It's definitely not something for me though. I've never been a fan of like prank calls. Like Crank Yankers is probably the only time that I've really like got into that, and even then it was like I could watch or listen to one or two prank calls and then just be good, you know. It's just not quite my cup. It's not quite my humor or my comedy that I enjoy. But Keegan the Creep does have a brand new album called What I Call Datterall, so definitely go peep that out. I assume it's on streaming services. But moving right along, Wargasm and Fred Durst unleash electro rock banger Bang Yo Head. I believe that is a single. When it comes to new music, I'm primarily going to kind of report on albums more than singles. I never really got into singles, so for me it's kind of, I want to focus more on when someone puts out an album, like, yo, this is the album that's out, and then talk about like if I've listened to it or if I plan to listen to it, like my excitement for albums. That's where I usually am at. I'm more excited for albums than singles. I have a whole playlist called Singled Out for a reason, because singles get singled out. I forget about them, and that's what we're doing here. We're forgetting about the singles. This one here actually had me excited. I talked to Megs. We at one point were talking about going to the New Year's Evil show in Columbus, but we're not sure yet if we're gonna go. But I was excited about this. Twisted announces Nightmare After Christmas and New Year's Evil 13. So Nightmare After Christmas, and I think, see, here I go. I'm not even pulling the things out. I opened up everything and didn't even do it. So I'm going to backtrack just a hair to the Keegan and the Creep bit. It is on Apple Music. It looks to be on Spotify since there's the player here. And it looks like you could even maybe watch some of the clips on YouTube. So let's utilize the windows that I actually opened let's try to be semi-professional, right? Let's pretend to halfway know what we're doing over here. You know what I mean? Let's try a little bit, shall we? But yeah, Twisted announces Nightmare After Christmas and the New Year's Evil 13 show. The Nightmare After Christmas is in Denver, Colorado. It's at the Roxy Theater, Scum's Theater, or I think he co-owns it. But it is going down on Friday, December 29th. Then with 2 days later for them to be doing the New Year's Evil. And if you don't know, New Year's Evil is actually something that they've done many times before, and they are bringing it back. It sounds like they may have taken a break. I honestly don't know. Honestly, I don't know, because, this year and last year were the first 2 years I really started following Twisted like I used to. So there's probably several years that I might have missed. And again, I don't know if they took a break because of COVID. I imagine, right? I imagine they had to have taken a break. I just don't know how long. But anyway, the New Year's Evil show is going down at the King of Clubs in Columbus. And I've heard Keezy and Carver and Chris over at Deck One Delt talk about this venue. Of course, that is where they are from. So immediately seeing that it was going to be in Columbus, I'm like, I'm there. I want to be there, I want to hang out with the homies again. But, just with the gathering and with Hallowicked, and we're Megs and I are starting to set our sights on next year. What events do we want to hit next year? So that's kind of where our heads are at. So we're still up in the air on whether we're going to go to this or not, but it has my attention for sure. But dope nonetheless for people in the area of both of these events. That's honestly, that's kind of cool. They have one show out in the west, one show in the east. And I'm going to imagine they're going to be similar set lists, if not the same set list, to where whoever's going to both shows are getting like the same thing. I think it's cool that they're doing that. It's a way to give somebody on this side of the country something, and back on the East Coast as well. So yeah, they announced Nightmare After Christmas and New Year's Evil 13. Moving right along into what is going to be like part of the headline. The Three-Headed Monster is back. Of course, they've been on tour. What nobody saw coming, though, was the new album, Rampage. I was shocked. I was surprised. I had no idea that they were planning this. It seems as though Ouija's blood is the blood running through the Three-Headed Monster. He puts out albums like just bang. Like he shuffles those out yearly, multiple times a year. Like he makes Tech Nine look bad, because Tech Nine usually only did 1 or 2 albums a year there for many years. Ouija be dropping 3-4 albums a year. You know what I mean? He stays busy, and it seems like that's the blood that's feeding the Three-Headed Monster. Because Obliteration came out how long ago? A couple months. It came out June 1st, right? So June, July, August. It's been like 4 months since Obliteration came out, and they've already got Rampage out now, which is officially out. Like, they announced it the day before it came out. So we'll go ahead and close out of that tab and go to the next one, because it is now out. It's 11 tracks, and when I first listened to this, my first listen, I had an AirPod in, and I was driving, so I didn't get to fully listen to it, you know what I mean? Because you have the noise of the road, and I didn't fully get a proper listen, I don't feel. But there was, when I listened to it, there were some songs that I was kind of like, are these like outtakes from Obliteration? Were these meant for Obliteration, or are these all new recorded songs? As I've kind of gone back through for another listen, it feels like this was like a planned release. So to me, it feels like they really enjoyed doing it. And that's why, we ended up with the surprise performance at the Gathering, as well as them going on another run of the tour, and them also then giving us, this project, which, I do plan on doing a review. I've already, like I said, listened to it one full time through. I haven't quite given it a full second listen, but I've kind of done some song jumping, because I was trying to go back and like re-listen to the ones I heard the first time, where I made that mental note of, ooh, I like this. Ooh, I like this. Like De Niro, Rampage, those were some, ooh, I like this. And I believe it was, I think it was in End of Days. There's a line that Jay has that like perked my ears up and itched my brain. And I was like, that was a dope line. He was like, what if I grew another fucking head? And then Ouija pops in and says, and another head. And then Isham comes in and says, everyone dead. And I'm like, yo, that was cool. That was a cool line. I love the way they executed it. So, you know, I'm definitely excited to give this more listens. What I am not excited for is that album cover. Like when they teased it and when it finally came out and this was the artwork, I was like, what is that? That looks like an ad for the album, but no, that is the actual album artwork. So I used, what was it? Let me pop back out of here real quick. I actually took a screenshot of that artwork right there. That's the one I used. I literally just took a screenshot of it off of Instagram from Fago Lover's Instagram page. Went into, it's called Hypic, I think, on my phone. It's a free app, absolutely free. Went in there, erased some stuff, did some finagling, and if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen it. I think I even posted it over on Twitter, but if you don't have any of those social media things, then you might not have seen it. But I went in and I made my own art. I literally just erased the logos because they felt very out of place where they were. Like, they belong in the corner or on the back. So I literally took the artwork from that post, imposed it onto this, and you can see, like, it's not perfect. It still isn't perfect. Like, there's still some green and some purple here, but I guess part of my thought process is that's like radiation glowing off of them that shows that this is why they're a monster, because they're radiated or they're mutated. But this, I made this in less than 15 minutes. Like, whatever that other cover was, get out of here. 15 minutes. This is, in my opinion, a better piece of art for the cover. I'm tooting my horn. I'm fucking patting myself on the back. Feel free to use it if you want to take a screenshot, or if you want to hit me up, I'll email it to you, and then you can do what I did. I went into iTunes and changed the artwork. So now it literally, when I go on my phone, this is the album cover that I see. That way I'm not like, oh, I really don't like that cover. You know, I just instantly get an itch just from looking at the cover, just from looking at the artwork. Which, speaking of the artwork, I do want to touch on this. I want to just kind of briefly, hopefully, go over it. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But this font right here, the homie Ronebone from Beneath the Dirt. I've been in contact with him. So if anybody's like, yo, is Ron okay? Ron's good, man. He's just, taking the time he needs. He'll come back when he's ready. But we've been talking, and he pointed something out to me that I didn't even know, because I've never heard of this game. But that is literally the same artwork, right? The same font, if you will. So the point that I want to make, and I posted it on Twitter, some people got it, other people didn't. I put in quotes, I put Twisted ripped off the Three-Headed Monster, because, they got that Odyssey album that's about to drop, produced entirely by DJ Godzilla. That's literally the producer's name, which is why it's themed the way it is, right? Everyone's saying that the Three-Headed Monster got ripped off by Twisted. The point I made when I posted this was, like, everything, like, literally the line off of Nothing's Left, everything left's been done before, there's no gimmick that ain't been sold. Literally, like, people are upset with Twisted because they feel like Twisted ripped off the Three-Headed Monster, but Three-Headed Monster literally took the font from this and made it part of their album. Like, everyone draws inspirations from something else. Like, why are people so upset? Like, it's just crazy to me, the amount of energy and time that is spent on it. Even from me. Like, I'm mad at myself right now for even continuing to talk about this, but wanted to bring it up, wanted to point it out. Just why? Focus on what you like, guys. It's okay. Moving right along to one of the biggest things that excited me. Loki, big fan of his. I mean, I couldn't be more on the guy's nuts. Super talented individual. If you haven't listened to Loki, go check him out. You can literally go to what I just said, listentoloki.com. It's a website. You can stream all of his music there for free. He makes his music available to anyone for free. You can go listen to albums. Then, of course, if you like it, you should support him. You can pay for a digital download. You can head over to shadowlandshop.com and buy albums. But Loki is a talented motherfucker. And one thing he's been doing for years that I know from like the homie Robbie at Twisted History, he did like this whole write-up in one of the Discord servers I'm in that he's in as well. Like he's gone over like his past and his history, and it was really cool. So Loki's been doing this for a long time. What he's doing here, he drops schedules of things that's coming out. So like going over this and looking over this, like the last couple schedules he put out, like he does a lot of merch drops, and like I have said multiple times throughout this year, I'm slowing down on buying stuff. We touched a little bit on that last week, how Violent J was talked about that as well, how when we leave, we can't take stuff with us. So our time is, things are better spent on experiences, and that hits so well with me. But yeah, I've been slowing down on merch and stuff. So the last couple of schedules that Loki has put out, I've been kind of like, it's great news. I'm excited for it, but then it's also like that's something that I may or may not buy. You know what I mean? And kind of the same thing with this. But one thing that I'm taking away from this is Oddworld Weekend. Now, in that same Discord server that I was just talking about, the homie Robbie, Twisted History, as well as Wasteland Waldo, we've been talking. We are curious what Oddworld Weekend is. We're curious if that means new music, a new album. I don't know about that though, but that would be really cool. Obviously the Portraits of Horror CD, if you do follow Loki, last year around this time he announced that he had this magnum opus, if you will, like his Great Malenko, his Abomination, like his masterpiece album was going to be Portraits of Horror. He was going to release singles every 3 weeks with this killer artwork that fit the theme of the song. And then once the final single came out, there would be a CD that would come out that would have a book of all the artwork that was released, and then all the singles as one album, and it would be called Portraits of Horror, right? Well, at some point this year, he has lost touch with his producer, which the producer he announced that was going to be producing that was Seven. Famously done work with Tech Nine, done some stuff with ICP, Killjoy Club, Twisted. Seven stays busy. When he had first announced this, I was super excited because, I just knew this was going to be a great, amazing album. But he recently announced that he's been having trouble. In his words, he got ghosted by Seven, which really sucks because that hits pause on Portraits of Horror. They've teased Neon Sermon, which put pause on that. But he teased putting this schedule out, and somebody in the comments, I actually think it was Robbie, somebody had teased in the comments that they were wondering about the status of Portraits of Horror, and he said that he can't finish it because he can't get in touch with the producer. And then he said that he thought about just putting the CD out as is, which I think there's 5 or 6 songs that have already come out, which hey, is a decent EP. It's a great EP if you ask me, because they're all great songs. So it sounds like that's the plan he is planning to take. He's going to put out Portraits of Horror as it is. I do hope, even though it's just an EP form, I really do hope that he is still planning to put that book out with the artwork in it, because it's been one of my favorite thing about the singles that have dropped is the artwork that goes along with it. Absolutely killer artwork. So I do hope that continues. I hope that that's still part of the plan for that CD when it drops. Another standout one about, and I'm gonna resist it the best that I can, and Meg's actually sitting in here with me. So work shirts he has dropping on the 29th of September, and I'm curious what kind of designs he'll have, how sweet they'll be, because way back, like if you look at my little avatar, the little Mario version of me, when the homie Frankenberry Jim made that, around that time I was heavily doing a lot of videos where I would wear my Psychopathic Records work shirt with my Strange Music tie. And I'm just saying, if there's a sweet enough shirt at a decent enough price, I might start donning another work shirt again. And I'm getting the eye of, you better come talk to me first, motherfucker. But yeah, the work shirts has my attention. Oddworld Weekend has my attention. Portraits of Horror Key charms, I've never heard of a key charm. I'm assuming that's just a keychain, but maybe the quality of the actual chain, like, or whatever. Maybe there's a medallion on it that's like actual charm. Maybe it's more metallic. We do have a couple of Shirt Day Thursdays in there, which he always usually has killer designs there. And then we have the Masks and Machetes Special Edition, and that one was one that caught my eye. If you haven't seen it yet, I will hopefully remember to put it in the link in the description. But Megs and I actually played Masks and Machetes for the first time, finally, after almost a little over a year now. It might actually be a little over 2 years now of owning the game. We finally cracked it open and played it, and it was actually a lot of fun. So I've been in my head like trying to figure out like what cards do I still need to get, because I did, I got to a point where I wasn't keeping up on the cards that were being released. So I was trying to think like, what cards should I look at possibly adding, and do I need to upgrade to version 2, because the version we have is the first version and the card quality isn't as good as the newer version is. So I was just immediately like looking at options for me, ways to get the new cards but without going broke. And then this comes out and I'm like, yo, what is this? Because usually special edition means it's a special release of the game and usually includes things that have come out. So I'm hoping that game comes out with every card that's ever been released, and I hope it's at a great price, because that may be the best, most affordable way for me to upgrade my game, because I have the very first release of it. So that was one that really caught my eye. And then of course the Let's Get Violent weekend. He just back in the summertime had the American Monster weekend, which was the weekend that I dropped my review for American Monster. So if you are a fan of Loki and you've been excited for me to do more reviews, you can definitely expect a Let's Get Violent review that weekend. That's definitely something I will be doing. So you can imagine for the Let's Get Violent weekend, they're going to do merch drops. They're probably, I have to assume it's going to be like American Monster, where he'll have like a repress of the album, as well as a new version of the album, maybe with a couple of new remixes, which I was really blown away by the remix for American Monster, the song American Monster, that comes on the new edition of American Monster. And I imagine that there's going to be some remixes that will actually perk my ears up. I'm normally not a fan of remixes, but I feel like there's going to be something dope within there. And then of course he's got a new mask coming out, which, I'm not a mask collector. So for the mask collectors out there, Wasteland Waldo, I'm talking to you. That was some exciting news. But yeah, Loki's fall schedule ends on October 31st, which means the winter schedule will have to drop sometime in November. We'll see what he has in store for us then. And then the last bit of news, and this one for me, when I first saw it, I honestly looked at it and I was like, why? Blaze Ya Dead Homie Rarities Graveyard Greats Volume 2. Now when they put the first one out a few years ago, I think it dropped back in 2020. Might have been actually 2019. I don't remember exactly when it dropped. Actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2019 now because of where I was living at the time. It was in 2019. When they did that, I honestly was kind of like, it's kind of like a greatest hits for Blaze's albums. The first one, if I remember correctly, it actually was more of like his bonus tracks and songs that he had put out as singles. So that to me was kind of like, okay, I can get that, when it comes to greatest hits album, depending on the artist and how big of a discography they have, I feel like greatest hits albums really aren't that needed. Like when they put out ABK's Perfection Collection, and when they put out I think it's called the Zug Island Greatest Hits album. I can't remember the actual name of it, but when they put out the Zug Island Greatest Hits album, when they put out the Perfection Collection from ABK, it was kind of like Zug Island only had 2 albums that they put out on Psychopathic Records, and now you have this Greatest Hits album. Same way with ABK. He had 3 or 4 albums put out on Psychopathic Records, and then they put out a Greatest Hits album. It's kind of like, for me, Greatest Hits albums are more like a lot of albums with some of your top songs from them all. I don't know. When it comes to Greatest Hits albums, I'm very 50-50 on it, because I'll sit there and tell you right first time somebody says anything, like asks me what's my favorite Korn album, I will actually tell you their Greatest Hits album is my favorite album. It's the only one that I own. It's really the only album I've listened to front to back. So I'm weird when it comes to Greatest Hits. So when they announced this, I was kind of like, why? I don't know. I approached it very negatively. But there's the track list right there. It's got Eggplant OG, Escape Artist OG, If I Fall OG, Never Enough featuring Twisted, which I believe might be unreleased. That one's not drawing it's not sparking a memory for me of what album that's from. If you know, drop it in the comments down below. But I'm pretty sure that's an unreleased thing, right? This High OG. I'm not sure what album that's off of. Fear of Respected, it's an unreleased Rida song. So I'm assuming the Rida song from 2019 that they put out, early 2020. Wishing Well, Scott Summer Mix, You Ain't Thug, Roll It Up, Hey You, Giants featuring Lavelle. So a couple of unreleased songs, a couple of OG songs, which curiously has me wondering, like, was it like, did they redo the beat or did they redo the lyrics? Like, did they rewrite verses? That's where my head's at. Because sometimes when you have a referral of like OG, like for instance, the Chicken Huntin' OG, that one was the beat. But then when you get into Piggy Pie, the old school one was the lyrics that were changed. So it's kind of, what do you mean by OG? Like, is it different lyrics? Is it a different beat? Is it a different both? I don't know. But they announced it. Graveyard Greats, available Friday, October 27th. But, I mean, I'll check it out on streaming, but I honestly don't know that I'll be picking this up at all. Just because, I mean, the first one, I got it, but I, like, never listened to it, if I'm being honest. I've never really listened to Graveyard Greats. So, but yeah, that was announced as well. And that brings us pretty much to the end of everything. The Three-Headed Monster Tour hit a roadblock at Canada, but it looks like everything is good there. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're approaching 30 minutes. I want to try to keep this shorter. So we are going to wrap it up for this week of what's happening now. The number 2 source for Juggalo or underground news. Unless you don't really care for my channel, then I'm not number 2. Somebody else is, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. But anyway, I'm going to head out. Tell me down below what you guys are excited for. What did you guys think of Rampage? What are your favorite tracks? I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
I've been lost for days, in my head there's no